What's going on, my super fam? Right, today we have a bit of a fun video looking into Durin's weapon options, and then we'll be ranking them on the tier list as usual for some of the newer characters that we've been doing recently, so that it can potentially help you to plan out your weapon usage and investment if you are planning to invest into your Durin specifically. Now again, this tier list is basically my personal ranking, and Durin himself is still in the beta, so it's not official yet. Therefore, the ranking can potentially change upon his arrival. But based on his current data, this is going to be my personal tier list. Durin, as well as so many other amazing Not Cry character, is going to be coming soon, and I know that many of you are trying to get them. So if you're planning to swipe for pooling, then don't forget to check out U7Buy. If you know me, I always recommend you guys the best deals for your Genshin top-ups, and with a U7Buy, you can save up to a 25% on all of your top-ups. With a 4.7 rating and over 40,000 positive reviews on Trustpilot, you can be sure U7Buy is trustworthy. Here you can see me doing a top-up where I'll be getting 2 Vulcans with a great discount. You just basically need your Genshin UID and server, then voila, your order will be processed instantly. Check out my link in the description and type in my code SUPRA to save an additional 5%, which is a great way to save your money, especially when you're topping up a large amount. First off, on the S tier, obviously signature, not usually on the tier list. The signature always goes on the above S tier because always the signature weapon is made for the character themselves. So for Durin, the passive works really well with him. It does give a bit more crit damage increase as well as more attack and the ability to support a bit more attack increase on your active character within your team. But while there is the passive of the magic character, so it's going to be getting even more bonus whenever we are using in the right Hexarray character team. Overall, a very solid signature option. But the more important thing is obviously the other remaining options. And within the S tier, we are looking at Mist Splitter, Jade Cutter, Elegy as well. Right, Mist Splitter and Jade Cutter works really well onto him as well, especially when you are focusing on the damaging side of Durin. Should be able to make the most of the usage of the passive from these weapons. And obviously, the Freedom Sworn is going to be more of the supportive side because the passive is focusing a lot on that, but it does give him EM, so he's still going to be able to do nice reaction damage. Now, overall, these options are pretty decent because when you look into it, in the current testing, it's only roughly around 10 to 12% difference compared to Extinguisher. So honestly, it is not really that bad if you do have these options for Durin himself. And the other one that can potentially go on an S tier is going to be the Wolf Fang. The Wolf Fang should be at an R5 level, of course, to be comparable to these 5-star options. It is a battle pass weapon, so not many of us are going to be having access to it, but if you do and you have been investing into this weapon, Durin should be able to make full use of the passive of the Wolf Fang, and on top of that, you do have very nice crit rate secondary stat given into him. So currently it is staying on an S tier. Now on A tier, actually, A tier isn't too far behind from some of the other options in the S tier, but Durin's passive usage from these weapons aren't as much as the other in S tier, which is why they are in A tier. To start off, we have the Uraku, Absolution, Azure Light. All these are obviously pure stat sticks for him, especially in terms of the crit damage side. The Uraku giving him like an 88% crit damage is actually huge. He should be able to make a bit of the use toward the elemental skill damage increase. Same with the Absolution, insane amount of stat sticks toward the crit damage side also. And the Azure Light more toward the crit rate, but he should be able to make use of the attack increase from the passive. The zero energy part, obviously aside from Skirk, is very hard for most of the character to actually have their zero energy state, but if at the moment he has his elemental burst, it is considered to be zero energy, then maybe his burst casting damage can also make use of this increase. But overall, these 3 weapons, in terms of damaging wise, he should be able to make use of this pretty well. Foliar Incision, Splendor, Haran. Foliar Incision is still very good. He should be able to make use most of the stats on this weapon, especially the passive, even when he's not fully building on EM. Splendor and the Haran is still mostly going to be the secondary stat sticks that he's going to be getting. Now the passive is going to be a little bit harder as the Haran focus a lot on normal attack scaling. and Durin is most likely not going to be using that too much. And the Splendor, half of the passive is toward HP, but the first half he should be able to make a bit of use of it, so it's still going to be alright. And then on the low end of the A tier, we do have access to like the Alliance Roll at an R5 level, since you do have attack increase upon dealing damage to Power and Electro affected enemy. You're still going to be able to have a decent boost from this. B tier, obviously we're moving more toward the other 4-star options, where we have like Festering Desire, Moonweaver, Cypher's Moonlight. Man, Festering Desire is such an old school weapon at this point. Almost impossible to get access to unless Holyverse bring this back in some kind of event. So most of us shouldn't really be having access to this, but if you do, then energy regen is going to be more on the supportive side Durin, making sure that his elemental burst is up, as well as elemental skill damage and crit rate increase toward that should be able to allow him to deal a bit more skill damage in terms of his DPS side. Moonweaver is definitely a newer weapon. Might hard for you guys to be getting from the weapon unless you did actually pull for it. But if you do, then attack increase from secondary stat, elemental burst damage increase. Should be able to make a pretty good use of this weapon. And again, Cypher's Moonlight is more on the support side, though the EM increase is nice for him to deal more damage. But his team member should be able to get, you know, a slight bit of buff from the passive of the Cypher's Moonlight. Other than that, we do have the Summit Shaper and the Skyward. Now, the reason why these two are here is, you know, even though they are 5-star options, I think Summit Shaper can actually be on the higher end of the B tier. That's fine, but not all the time when we're going to be using him in a shielded kind of team to be able to make full use of this weapon. And honestly, I don't think most of us even have this weapon also. And the Skyward Blade, it does give you good energy regen, a bit of crit rate here and there, movement speed, attack speed, those kind of things. But obviously compared to the other options, it kind of falls behind slightly. And again, it is a 5-star weapon, so unless you are lucky in the standard weapon banner to get this sword, I'm pretty sure most of us don't have access to this either. Then we also have options like the Sack Sword, Favonius Sword. Finale of the Deep is also an option. Also, obviously Sack and Faf is entirely supportive Durin and is mostly free to play kind of building at the current point. And Finale of the Deep, he can make use of this pretty well. A nice DPS free to play options, full craftable, that he can start making use of at the current point. And he can also make use of the passive decently, obviously depending on your team, but it's a very decent craftable options that he can use if you don't have any of the other better options that we have just mentioned on the tier above. And then C tier is mostly for free-to-play 4-star options that we can have access to. I think they're still fine, but definitely not going to be as good as the above options that we have just mentioned. First off, we have options like the Black Cliff, Royal Sword, the Flute, the Ally Flash, yeah, Black Cliff and a Royal Longsword, even though they have decent stat. But two of these weapons, the passive, are just really hard to get. Obviously, if you want them, you have to use your Star Glitter. Mostly not recommended, but hey, if you do have access to these, I think it's still going to be fine depending on the situation that you are using them in. But I don't recommend you to just go for Star Glitter and actually buy them off the shop. Now, the Flute and the Ally Flash, technically a limited 4-star options. So yes, not many accounts are going to be having access to this. If you do have access to the Flute, I think it's still fine. Got attack increase for him, and the passive is kind of okay too. Ally Flash is just definitely so rare. I'm not sure when the last time I've seen this on a weapon banner. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's been forever since I've seen this sword. Though it does give you a bit of EM, high base attack is okay. The passive is also hard to keep up, so not too recommended, but you can still use it if you have it. Other than that, we do have the Ishin, Tokabo, Iron Sting, pretty much more free to play of weapon series. If I'm not mistaken, Tokabo was an event weapon, so yeah, it's still hard for you to get if you didn't have it, but if you do, and Iron Sting, these two gives you nice EM increase. And the Ishin, basically kind of like the attack stat sticks for Durin, and options that you can also consider. Other than that, there's also the Amenoma, Sapwood, Flosandre. I think these are also decent options, especially when you technically also get them for free. Flosandre is definitely more of an energy regen increase, purely weapon playstyle. Amenoma, Maybe you have access to this an R5 weapon crafted already because it's an Inazuma craftable sword. If you've been playing for a long time, some of you may have this, so it's a decent weapon to consider. Sapwood also more toward the energy regen side again, but the passive can be decent depending on whether or not you're going to be able to make use of it or not. And then D tier, we don't have a lot actually, like, you know, the Harbinger of Dawn, cool still. Harbinger of Dawn, 3-star, basically starter weapon, cool still also, but you have to have on your team at least a Hydro or a Cryo character to be able to make use of this sword. But yeah, we're probably not going to be making use of this too much. So there you go. That is going to be my current ranking on some of the weapon options that we have access to at this point. Again, it is purely my weapon tier list, so you can go with it depending on your choice or not. But as usual, I hope it has been helpful to you. If you do have any questions though, leave it down in the comment section and I or some other lovely Genshin player will get to you there. Again guys, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on my future Genshin videos. With that, I wish you a super day and I'll catch you on my next video.